Hey, this is Leo for Actualized.org, and we're continuing along. This video is part of my Blueprint series, which is over 100 of the greatest personal development concepts of all time. And the concept that we're covering here is called charged life. So what is the charged life? Why is it important? And what is the nuts and bolts of creating a charged life? Basically, I got this idea from Brendon Burchard, and what he talks about is the distinction between having a caged life, a comfortable life, and a charged life. And really what this concept is about is the idea that you want to commit to having and living a charged life, whatever it takes. And a charged life, by definition, is one where you're on your edge. You're out there and you're pushing yourself. You're taking risks. You're out of your comfort zone. You're growing. You're learning. You're doing exciting things. And you're not just taking life for granted. You're not sitting on your ass. You're not being lazy. So that's what this concept is. And the whole idea, the action plan behind it is simply just to understand that this distinction exists, this three-part distinction between these different types of lives. And then the fact that you got to really commit to it. This is something you have to commit to and recommit to on a daily, on a weekly basis, and check in with yourself and say, am I living a charged life, or am I getting complacent? All right, so why is this concept important? We talked about what it is. Let's talk about why it's important. I think this is important because if you're bought into what Actualized.org is about, it really is about creating a charged life. That's what I want for you. That's what my message is, I think, ultimately, is I want people to be living big lives. I want to challenge you to do that because I think it's very easy in modern day society where if you're living in a first world country, you're pretty comfortable. Most of us are pretty comfortable if you're middle class or above, and it's very easy to get so comfortable that you become complacent and you stop seeing the amazing opportunities that are out there. You stop chasing after your own potential. You stop learning. You stop challenging yourself. And so what happens? You just kind of sit there on your couch watching TV, and you get in a comfortable relationship that turns into a rut, and you get comfortable at work and that turns into a rut, and basically your whole life turns into a rut. And then you start to feel dissatisfied with yourself. Even though you have all the basics of your life taken care of, maybe you've got enough money to pay the bills and make the ends meet, and maybe you've got enough, you've got a relationship, so you've got enough life and love in your life, and you've got some decent friends, you've got a decent family life. Everything is just kind of decent and moderate and also mediocre. And then after a while, you start to ask yourself, is there more? Is this what life could really be? And you know that your greatest self sees that there's more. You know, you can't really deny the fact that there are people out there, whether you interact with them a lot or not, but there are people out there that are really living amazing lives, living a life on their edge. They're living a charged life where they're having some sort of amazing impact in the world, or they're really contributing something special to relationships and their interactions with people, or they're getting just an unusual amount of adventure from their lives. You know, we read about these people. These are people that are featured in magazines and news stories and on TV, and they inspire us to want to go out there and be more. And so that's why this concept is important. I think that if you want to really live to your full potential, you have to commit to living a charged life. And what does that mean? Committing to living a charged life means that you're also committing to work, because living a charged life is not the easy route. Of the three options here, and we haven't even covered the caged life so much, and I want to go into that in a little bit, because you might even be living a caged life right now. But let's say, I'm assuming that you're probably living a comfortable life, but then there's also this charged life. So you need to commit to living a charged life, and living that charged life is going to take more work than living a comfortable life or living a caged life. Work in the sense that you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and that's going to mean that there's a certain level of discomfort there, right? Just by definition. Because if you're gonna go out there and you're gonna start a new business, or you're gonna go out there and you're gonna risk yourself to try to create a better relationship, or you're gonna go out there and maybe you're gonna share your story and you're gonna do public speaking, or interact with the world in some unique way where you're on your edge, that's challenging, right? That's a risk that you're taking. You have to be pushing yourself to grow. You have to be doing something new almost by definition. And this idea of challenge is a really important one. And I want to give Brendan Burchard credit for this because he really says that to live a charged life, you gotta design challenges for yourself, right? This is not going to come about naturally. The trick is that you have to create the challenges, and ideally you want to create the kind of challenges that you want to tackle. Because the difference between someone who's living a charged life and someone who's living, let's say, a caged life, the person with the caged life also has a lot of challenges, except there, the challenges kind of come about spontaneously. They're almost thrust upon him or her, and therefore, that person may be even dealing with more challenges than the person who's living the charged life on their edge. But the difference is that the person who's living a charged life, he consciously chose those challenges, right? So it's kind of like the difference between challenging yourself to learn to play the piano really well. That would be someone, let's say, who's living the charged life, and someone who is challenged because they can't make ends meet and their boss is mad at them because they're not showing up to work on time. You know, both are challenges. I don't even know which one is more challenging. I would say that the caged life here is more challenging because you're not even getting the fulfillment from it. What's nice about the charged life is that yes, there is challenge, but that's undercut by the fact that you're getting so much reward from it. You're making a conscious decision that yes, you're going to be putting in this work, you're going to be putting this effort, but you're going to get a higher sense of return on your investment, so to speak, right? And that return on investment is going to come from these higher feelings that you're going to get. You're going to get feelings potentially like a sense of creative contribution, more love, more joy, higher consciousness. You're going to get a sense of pride in what you're doing. You're going to get a sense of achievement and accomplishment, a sense of excellence. You know, you can be pursuing these higher values, whereas when you're living a caged life, you're really pursuing the very bare minimum. You're just kind of struggling to survive. And if you're in the comfortable life, then you're not struggling to survive. You have survived and you're comfortable surviving as you are, but you're also probably bored with life. You're seeing that there could be more, and you're still dissatisfied. You're dissatisfied because you're kind of in between. On the one hand, you can't be too dissatisfied because you've got all your basics handled. But on the other hand, you can't be too excited either because, well, there's all this cool stuff here, but you're not pursuing it. You're not taking any action on it. So you're dissatisfied. All right, let me talk a little bit more about the caged life because that might actually be a condition that some of you are in. Caged life basically means that you're living in constant reaction to the environment. That means that you're struggling to survive, you're struggling to even meet some of your basic needs, right? If we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, well, there he talks about that the most basic stuff, just common sense, is that you need food, you need water, you need shelter, you need clothing, you need a relatively comfortable environment just to feel a very basic level of satisfaction. Then once you've got those, then you're going to want things like sex, you're going to want things like relationships with other people. Then continuing kind of going up that list is you start to want to get a sense of community, a sense of belonging to something that's larger than yourself, and then you can kind of go higher and higher and higher into things like self-esteem and sense of pride, and then you can go even into higher, just ultimately self-actualization. So when you're living that caged life, what that's about is just struggling to meet the very bottom of that pyramid, right? If you're living a caged life, then you probably think that the world is really hard, that it's difficult to make money, that love is hard to find. You're probably thinking that friendship is rare and it's hard to find good friends. Maybe it's hard to get your family situation taken care of so that you're not fighting all the time, you're not angry all the time, you're not frustrated all the time, you're not stressed out all the time. And that is kind of the caged life, right? And when you're living in the caged life, a lot of what you're doing is you're reacting to things that are being thrown upon you by the external environment. So maybe you've got bills due that you're scrambling to pay. Maybe you've got fights that you're always getting into with your spouse or your family members or your friends, and you're in that cycle all the time. So it's a lot of like negativity and pain. Also, another I'd say feature of the cage kind of life is that you tend to probably have addictions. You've got negative addictions, so things that you might be addicted to, either drugs, alcohol, television, food, other things, more abstract addictions such as negative thinking. You might be very hooked on negative thinking. You might be hooked on worrying all the time. You might be hooked on various limiting beliefs that you have. So all of these addictions, you might be caught in a cycle of going through those. And those can be really frustrating because on the one hand, what you're doing is you're getting a short-term hit of pleasure from engaging that addictive behavior. But in the long run, what you're doing is you're sacrificing your potential in your future, right? That's what happens when you do drugs, alcohol, when you're sitting watching TV all the time, you're addicted to negative thinking. That's basically what you're doing. Or food. Food is a big one. I had that problem that I had to work my way out of. So that's living a caged life. And the reason that it's really called a caged life is because you are hemmed in by all these circumstances, and it's hard to see that you even have a way out. You're just so immersed in that. You're just so struggling. It's like being caught in quicksand. You're struggling against like the forces of nature, and you feel like everything is against you. The world and life is set up against you. And a lot of times what you're doing is you're living to please other people. You're living to meet goals of other people. Maybe you're living and you're struggling to meet the approval of your parents or the approval of a loved one or a spouse, or to be accepted by your friends, to be accepted by the community. It's always about externals, right? It's struggling to live someone else's life, really. Either society's life that you think you should be living, and not really expressing yourself authentically, not really honoring your values. So if you're living that caged kind of life, then you have to really start to get your way out of it by looking at what you really want, and then start kind of working your way up. And it can be painful, and then transition into the comfortable, and then from the comfortable into eventually, hopefully, the charged. So that's a transition that's possible for you. But ultimately, with this concept, I want you to see the big picture, the ideal, the vision of living that charged life, living to your full potential, and everything that could be. You know, who could you be if you were living to your full potential every single day? And if you were doing that consistently for, let's say, 10 years, where would you be at? How much money would you have in your bank account then? How much satisfaction would you get from your job? How much satisfaction would you get from your family life and your relationships and your hobbies? When you're challenging yourself and you're going out there and you're doing new stuff and you're traveling the world. These are the people that travel the world. These are the people that engage in new businesses. These are the people that are always building new relationships, right? They're learning new things. They're improving their health. They're basically improving their life every day by a little bit in every way. And that ends up adding up, and then after a while they have really awesome lives. And we, if we're living in the comfortable and the caged life, then we kind of wonder like, well, how did they get there? And that's because they're always taking action on it. And that's why I'm such a big proponent of personal development and doing this stuff very actively, doing it as a hobbyist, really pursuing it, is because I think that that's the vehicle that you use to get yourself from a caged and a comfortable life into that charged kind of life, right? So the idea is that you really just want to commit to it. Commit to this idea. And be willing to accept the cost too, because it's not that it's just like, oh, sure, I'll live a charged life. If it was that easy, everyone would do it. It's that you got to recognize what are the challenges there. You know, starting a new business isn't easy. Trying to go out there and improving your social life isn't easy. Going out there and traveling all the time and going to strange places and doing new things, that's not easy. And learning new things, also challenging. You have to understand that that's going to be there, but you're pushing for it, and you have to understand that your reward is the higher pleasure. So there's going to be a sense of delayed gratification here. Initially, you're going to be putting in, and you're going to be uncomfortable, but later on, after you do all that and you take your risk and you do uncomfortable things and you maybe fail and you slip up and you go through the frustration of that, you got to see that there's a bigger picture. After a while, you do that for some months, some years, and you start seeing the dividends pay off to you in those higher quality feelings. Like you're going to feel more high consciousness, and you're going to feel greater ease in the world, more tranquility, more confidence, more self-esteem, more sense of creative contribution, more love, all these awesome things that many people just miss out on in life, right? And of course, excitement. Having an exciting life, to me, that's really a compelling vision to make me do the hard work that it takes, right? Because, going to the gym and staying in shape, that takes hard work. And going to your job every day and not just doing a mundane job, but going out there and like really pushing it and trying to do better every day and trying to learn at your job and really making it a life calling, that takes a lot of work, right? And if you have a creative job, then expressing yourself creatively and taking all the creative risks and all the emotional labor involved with being really creatively expressive, that's really challenging. So all these things are challenging, but they're also rewarding. And what I want to have you really decide right now, once and forever, what kind of life do you want to live? Is it going to be a caged life, a comfortable life, or a charged life? And realize that if you don't make a choice, you've still made a choice. And I can guarantee that if you don't make the choice, then you're probably almost impossible for you to live that charged kind of life. You're going to, by default, fall into a caged life or a comfortable life. And is that what you really want? I mean, if it is, fine. I'm not going to sit here and browbeat you to live a charged life. But I think that when you force yourself to ask this conscious choice, because most of us are never asked this choice, we don't even know that this choice exists. We just kind of fall into the cage to the comfortable life. So ask yourself right now, what do you want? What kind of life do you want? And are you willing to pay the costs? And do you see the potential? Do you see the rewards and how awesome the rewards could be? I think you do. I think we all have that intuition. And that even if you're in a very tough spot in your life right now where you're just struggling to make ends meet and to get things just to a kind of a baseline level, that's okay. You're gonna have to work through that. It's gonna take you longer. It's gonna require you to first work your way into a comfortable life and then work your way into a charged life. But still commit. Still commit to the fact that if you're in a caged life right now, that you're gonna break free and then you're gonna move yourself into a comfortable place. And then once you get comfortable, this is the trick, is that you're not gonna stay there. You might stay there for a little bit, but you're not gonna stay there for the rest of your life. You're gonna then look to something higher, something greater, and you're gonna move on. And I think that actually, if you're in a caged position, you actually have an advantage over the people that have been in a comfortable life for a very long time. Because once you get very complacent and comfortable, to me that's like death. It's really hard to then get yourself motivated. You're very much in a rut in life. Whereas if you're in a caged life, it just might mean that you started out with harder initial conditions than the rest of us did, and you have to work through that. And you can actually learn a lot from those challenges, and you can really slingshot yourself with some of those lessons because you're going to be so motivated to break out of that. It's going to be like you're slingshotting yourself out, and you're going to have that momentum after you break out of your cage. You're going to have that momentum to just power through the comfort and go straight into the charge of life. And a lot of examples of people, when you read their biographies, some of the greatest people out there, that are accomplishing amazing things today and that are living those exciting lives, if you read where they came from, a lot of them came from very bad conditions. They had drug addictions, they were battling depression or mental illness, or they were having family problems, or they were abused when they were younger, or whatever. They were very poor, and then what they did is they used that as motivation. They actually learned a lot from those from their greatest challenges, and they use that to slingshot themselves forward into something that now they can use to inspire others. And that's what I want for you, is if you're in that caged position and you're really struggling right now, is that don't think that you have to work harder than the rest of us. Think that you actually might have an advantage in a certain sense than the people that are living the comfortable kind of lives. And if you are living a comfortable life, then my advice to you is to get off your ass, because you are discounting how short life is. Your life is going to be over like that. And you are going to be regretting that you're not living this awesome life here. Plus, why would you not want this? Why would you not want to have all the riches that life offers, especially modern society? You can really be out there killing it, doing anything you want to do, experiencing so much. You're skipping all that out to do what? To watch TV? Really? Is that a good bargain? Are you making a smart choice there? No, you're not making a smart choice. You're making an unconscious choice. Make the conscious choice to live a charged kind of life. All right, so this is it. I'm going to be signing off. It's basically the concept of living a charged life. I think it's a really important one. Thanks to Brandon Burchard for sticking it into my mind, and now I'm sharing it with you along with some of my other thoughts. So go ahead, leave some comments. Tell me about what you think about this. What kind of life have you been living? And how can you get yourself to be living more of a charged life than you have already? So share your thoughts with me, and also share this video if you found it useful. Maybe you have a friend that needs a kick in the ass, who's sitting on the couch and watching too much TV, or maybe you have someone who's struggling and they need some motivation, and they need a vision, and they need to see why their condition is actually an advantage to them, that they can really use that to inspire the rest of us with the massive transformation that they're going to make. So go ahead and share and spread the love. Like it if you like this video.